delving past the headlines, sorting through the media bias, exposing the propaganda, and challenging you to use your brain. It's time to tap into the truth. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed time for Tap Into the Truth. Thanks for joining us tonight, broadcasting live from scenic Roane County, Tennessee. This is your host, Tim Tapp. Today we are going to be discussing this past week's media bias. For those of you who don't believe that there are any bias in the media, that is, I've got a few examples that you just might find interesting. Let's go ahead and start taking a peek at a few of them, shall we? Let's start with Gail Trotter. Gail Trotter is the woman who testified in front of Congress and basically made the claim, made the point, the statement that gun control is sexist. Why did she say this? What was the purpose? She was trying to make a point that firearms do indeed work as an equalizer for women when it comes to the threat of a larger male attacker. And while she attempted to make the point, a lot of folks ended up kind of getting a chuckle out of it because she called a particular senator, "You're a big man, you're a large man." And she didn't mean fat, but it sounded that way, and a lot of people chuckled. Well, the bottom line is she made a pretty big splash, and she had a lot of conservatives actually jump on the bandwagon and get behind her. How does the liberal media portray this? I came across several articles, people asking, who is Gail Trotter? Most prominent among them, the Huffington Post, which, as you will see throughout the other examples, they play prominent with this. They went along, made several claims, and attacked her character, defamed her character, and made it sound as if this woman, who is a businesswoman and who is part of several conservative organizations, is some terrible, flip-flop, wishy-washy person that can't even explain why she is against certain legislation that's intended or meant to be equalizing for women. The bottom line is, she does believe in constitutional government, and that's why when government tries to pass laws that overstep the bounds of the Constitution, she has an issue with it, as should all Americans. But the content of her character was attacked, and it was done so in a fashion that is not much different than how many in the liberal media attacked Sarah Palin. What's ridiculous about this is, what do? They call Sarah Palin a slut. They made these statements over and over again, but then they hold up Sandra Fluck as a hero. Now, last time I checked, Sandra Fluck went in front of Congress and testified that while attending a Catholic university, she believed the university should pay for her contraceptives because she was having so much sex that she was going broke paying for her own. Okay, I don't want to get into the definitions of words like slut because, it's kind of a harsh word. Some people will probably be offended by it. Okay, I apologize for those of you who do it, but this was the terminology used. Now, let's look at what the definition of the word is, and let's see what's the difference. Sarah Palin, married for decades to the same man, part of a loving, devoted family. Sandra Fluck, hero, having so much sex she can't afford her own contraceptives, which, last time I checked, whether you wanted to use the pill or you wanted to use prophylactics, relatively cheap, especially in comparison to the age-old preferred method of birth control for most liberals, the abortion. The media also this past week attacked the new social media group, the Tea Party community. This is basically a very Facebook type of social media page. I have to admit, I actually am a member there. Got on there just a little bit before the mainstream media discovered about it. I enjoy the opportunity to have some interaction with other like-minded conservative folks. I will grant there does seem to be a few people that are a little extreme, but most of the people that I've encountered in my time there are extremely well-centered, thoughtful people. However, once word got out, oh my gosh, the conservatives have a social network of their own, well, the attacks began. Not just in the media, but also with liberals, because there was a very open policy for joining. So a lot of people got in and started just trying to stir up trouble. We're coming here to call you out. So this one post for this moron was attacking the fact that most social conservatives oppose abortion. And his taunt is, why do you people prefer back alley abortion? Why is it that there has to be back alley abortion? I'll admit, when I was young, I grew up in a Democratic house. Grew up believing that the Democrats were the way to go and that there were no good Republicans. They were just for business. They weren't for the people. And as I got older, I came to see that that really isn't the case. Unfortunately, party politics is for their party in maintaining power, and they're not really for business or for the people in either case. That's why these new groups and movements have arose. That's why the libertarians are out there. That's why Freedom Works is out there trying to build a coalition. That's why the Tea Party has evolved. That's why the Tea Party community was built. But the HuffPost again got on there, spent a few minutes, found some of the worst examples they could, and plastered that all over their article, and basically just tried to make it seem like a bunch of extremist right-wings, paranoid people. It's absolutely ridiculous for somebody to spend 5 minutes on a site, look around, find the worst you can, and think that you know anything about it. Until you get to talk to some of these people, until you spend some time getting to know them, you have no idea. And as usual, the more liberal-minded media has no interest in painting an accurate picture, only painting a picture that represents their side. They want you to believe what they believe, and they don't want you exposed to other ideas. And they even pointed out that the psychological theory of just wanting to have a place where you can be around the same kind of people so you bounce back the same ideas and you just change your reality so that you can disconnect with real reality, and accuse the Tea Party community social media site of being exactly that. Well, I would suggest that the so-called reporters for the Huffington Post actually get out into the world and talk to several people and not just handpick from a specific location where they know who they're going to run into. This attack on the Tea Party community was nothing more than an attack on the Tea Party itself, once again seeking to paint in the worst possible light the conservative people and the conservative movement. Another good example this week, there was a major bombing today in Iraq. Well, nobody wants to talk about Iraq. I had to dig to find this information. Hopefully in a few hours or so, this will make the news rounds a little more and get reported at some level, but evidently there were car bombs that struck in 2 outdoor markets and a group of taxi vans in a Shiite area across Iraq earlier in the day today. Last report, there were 36 dead, nearly 100 wounded. It's being called the bloodiest day in more than 2 months, just 2 months. As the minority Sunnis stage large anti-government protests, the Sunni protesters have rejected calls to violence by an al-Qaeda-linked group, but there is concern that the Sunni insurgents could step up attacks ahead of the April 20th provincial elections, which will be the first countrywide vote since U.S. troop withdrawal more than a year ago. On Friday, tens of thousands of Sunni protesters rallied in 5 major cities against the Prime Minister, Nouri al-Maliki, and Shiites accused of monopolizing power, and the Sunnis also complain of official discrimination. Now, they don't want to talk about Iraq. They're not going to talk about Iraq, and if they do bring up Iraq, what are they really going to do? Well, they're going to say, oh, well, things are falling apart now. Why? Well, because it's W's fault. I'm still trying to figure out how people were trying to blame Bush for the lights going out in the Super Bowl. But it happened. I heard people say that. It's Bush's fault. I would laugh it off if I thought that they were actually kidding. They weren't. Also, another good example, and we'll talk about this in a little more depth, the Christopher Dorner incident going on. Last I checked, he was still on the loose. This man, former police officer in Los Angeles, has killed a few people. He shot the daughter of a former police chief, and he ambushed 3 or 4 police officers, depending on the reports you read. Last time I checked, I think it's supposed to be 4. 2 of those died, and the other 2 severely injured. They reported quite honestly about the incident, but where the media bias comes in is even on the local Fox affiliate, they were reluctant to talk about this lengthy online manifesto that Christopher decided to leave for everybody. He even posted it on his Facebook page. He included everybody from Anderson Cooper to Michelle Obama. Went down a long list of folks, and if you want to take the time to look it up, that information's out there. But the media didn't want to report his praises of Janet Napolitano, of Barack Obama, of Hillary Clinton. Made it clear that these people were his heroes. He said a lot of positive things towards some extremely liberal politicians and liberal host of television and radio shows, and he said some very negative things about some conservative folks. And he also rambled on about different actors and different athletes. It's all there. But if this guy had been all about how Rush Limbaugh's the greatest guy ever, or Sean Hannity's my hero, or any one of these guys, you get what I'm saying here, folks. It didn't paint the picture of the gun-toting, Bible-thumping, conservative, nut-job prepper that they're trying to paint every anti-leftist. They want to make us all look, if you're conservative, you are a threat. And, you know, this guy, obviously a threat, but what's he looking at? I mean, he even talked about being sad that he's not going to get to see The Hangover 3. Talked about